Welcome back. It's episode 6, and boy, have PSA given us a lot to talk about because this week we have learned that they have put all value tier submissions on the back burner for 4 to 6 months while they catch up with a backlog of cards. And it's a lot to talk about, and to break it down with me is my colleague and fellow collector, Dom. Dom, God, we've got a lot to talk about.
We have indeed. No doubt about it. This is going to affect the market in one way or another, and it'll be good to break that down. We're also going to have a little look at the crazy number of collaborations that Pokémon Company seem to be getting themselves into as the 30th anniversary hits its stride. And I do want to have a look back and see how we could have been making huge gains on Japanese 151 just a couple of years ago. And I look forward to analysing that as well with you a little bit later on.
Like mind-blowing gains, right? It's gonna be a good one. If only we knew. That's crazy. Not to forget as well, we need to tell everybody about the plan because we are listing some cards on eBay in June to wrap up our $100 30-day flip challenge. So we need to make sure we talk about that as well.
Yeah, our first challenge, isn't it? So it'd be interesting to see who comes out on top, and then we'll work out what the next one is.
We're both saying we don't care, but secretly we both do. We know we do deep down.
We do.
Hey, let's go back to PSA because do they give us a lot to talk about. But can you fill everyone in on what's happened this week, Dom? If people are unaware or live under a rock, PSA have come out with a pretty massive statement.
Yeah, it's the biggest news since our break. This is the first time we've had a couple of weeks since we've done a video, and this is standout the biggest thing that's happened. So definitely one that we need to discuss. PSA have basically cancelled all of their value tier submissions. They haven't just put them on a delay. They haven't just extended the number of days it's going to take for those submissions to come back. They've actually fully cancelled them. They reckon that they've got it, and they need to try and cut that down by half. So they are a long way behind. And this is after they put that massive price increase in to try and dissuade people from submitting. And I guess that was their first sort of hit at trying to bring this down, and it hasn't worked. So here we are.
When I hear 10 million cards, like my brain can't quite wrap around that number of cards. Like I'm already now interested in like what their structure is. Like, do they have central locations? Are they everyone working from home? Like, I don't understand really how it works and how people grade, but 10 million cards, that's not a small amount.
Yeah, I mean, it's all a central location. So, none of these cards are leaving their site. That would raise some serious security concerns above what people have already got. I know that there's talk of them opening the first European PSA center, but it hasn't got off the ground yet. And obviously, they're just completely struggling with demand. And I think
that's all Europe's cards are being sent to the USA for grading for PSA as well.
So, we have this kind of cool thing where you're based in the US and I'm in the UK, and that kind of gives us different points of view on stuff. And one thing that I've noticed this week is the biggest submitter of cards in the UK is the Sub Centre based out of Canterbury. They're like a middleman for PSA grading. So you send them your cards, they do the submission form, they ship them to PSA. They've got an official relationship with them. And then you get your cards back sometime later. This week, they posted to say that you wouldn't be able to submit with them anymore for those tiers. And that was the first inkling that I actually got from this before the official statement from PSA. And so it's interesting to see now they've come out and officially said, we're struggling here. You're going to have to give us a break. Which, when you think about the money that they're making hand over fist from grading these cards, to be even like tempted to turn these down. Can you imagine the conversation in the boardroom?
No, not at all. And I wonder how. I'm curious on what is going on in terms of the scalable workings on making it possible to get through that backlog and then probably maintain a volume going forward that was not the same as the past, right? So, oh my goodness me, I don't even know where to start. One thing I do want to say though is as well that we're going to obviously talk about PSA and focus on PSA because they are the gods of grading when it comes to Pokemon. But there is like grading companies, all grading companies are struggling with volume right now. I've heard, and you read various different other companies come out with statements about either times changing, tiers changing. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dom, but I think PSA is the first one of them to stop things altogether, right?
So I do think Tag have stopped taking some submissions because they are really struggling with a
Okay.
backlog, and I do wonder whether their system is a lot more involved in terms of grading cards. You know that they come back with a lot more accurate reporting, and so they've also not got the infrastructure that PSA have got, but they're also not dealing with these massive quantities of cards. And I'm so surprised that the price increase just didn't even take the gas off the pedal with people putting cards in, because it was a significant increase. But I do believe when you go to these card shows, and it's so evident, and it has been for a lot of years, that PSA hold the sort of premium for selling your cards. And so, whilst that's the case, and you're making money from grading, which is why people are grading predominantly, um, they're going to continue to want to use them in swaves. And the more vendors that there are, the more people are in the hobby in general. It's just a massive funnel that they're dealing with.
So let's talk about that for a second, because you mentioned their vendors, right?
Yeah,
So let's talk about the reasons why we've got this volume. Because
right.
the most obvious one to talk about is, well, Pokemon's really popular, right? It's like more people are into the hobby. But I don't think that is the only explanation on why we've got this 10 million cards in this backlog. I've seen all sorts of videos this week of people sort of trying to break down why they've got this. One of them that I do want to, that I'd love like to get your opinion on as well and point out, is that people are now grading cards that in the past would never have been considered graded, because the market is so weird and responds to hype trains and various things. Like this card's now being graded that were never being graded in the past.
Yeah, it's true. Not that I would want to grade some of these things, but people do seem to be grading anything. But then when you look at some of the cards that have gone up in value in recent years, you look especially at like celebrations from the last anniversary sets. When I was seeing those out and about in the wild, I never thought any of those cards were going to be worth anything at the time. We were in a
Sure.
different market. I just assumed, there was going to be so many of them printed, and it seems that that's not the case. There are so many collectors out there that even modern cards and those from the mid era, if they get a little bit of support or a bit of a hype train, as you say, on social media, they take off. So perhaps it is worth grading, the anything really. But from the vending standpoint, I think the issue that PSA have got with that is, and although this is probably not the main bulk of submissions as a whole, you've got so many people who are essentially running businesses. Now, when they're running businesses, they're looking for avenues down which they can generate revenue. And they can do that through selling their cards, which they've got in their inventory. They can buy cards from other people at shows or online or however to prop that inventory up. But the easiest way to create value in their inventory is to take raw cards, grade them in bulk 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 at a time, and then the cards they get back, regardless of how many have 10 or 9 really, they're all going to be worth more than they were when they sent them. And if you've got a business which is trying to make more and more money month on month, then you're going to be trying to ramp that up. And if I'm trying to ramp that up, then the vendor next to me is trying to ramp that up. And then the vendor next to them is trying to ramp that up. And so these aren't all people sending in, oh, I opened 100 packs of Ascended. I was lucky enough to get a Pikachu. I'll grade it on its own. Like a lot of this 10 million is going to be people submitting more than 100 cards each.
And then on top of that, they're competing with the guy who bought 1,000 McDonald's Pikachu's, which is my example of a card that would never have been graded in the past, and has submitted thousands of them. Like, isn't it the most graded card, like most graded
Yeah.
promo or
And
some sort of
what a
title ever?
Yeah, what a great example. But equally, like I remember thinking to myself, and a lot of other people have thought this as well, is that the price pressure in terms of the supply of those burger cheese should have
Burger
sent
chew.
that card to like £10. I don't know exactly what the PSA 10 price is right now, but it was approaching $100, I believe. So, with 6 figures of copies out there already and more in the pipeline. So somehow it's desirable enough that the supply is still not enough to saturate the market to bring the price down.
So do you think like so you've got that under the umbrella of like vending. So do you think in the past there was much more it was graded for PC and
Yeah.
nowadays grading is more looked at like a revenue driver or a revenue stream in a business? Do you think that that is what you mean when you summarize as vending?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of people were doing it for the value anyway, but
Yeah.
it's just the number of people that are doing that now has increased tenfold or even more. And they might not be vending it. Doesn't mean they have to have a table at a show. Do you know what I mean? They might just
Right.
be spinning them on Facebook Marketplace or putting them on their eBay store
Liquid,
or
yeah.
trading into bigger cards. They're not even
Hmm.
selling them. They just it's such an easy way to create perceived value within your collection is to grade yourself. And so that's where this influx is coming from. Everyone knows that like basically graded cards are the new collectible. Like I don't know that many people now, especially when they're getting into the hobby, that are only collecting raw cards. I don't want to slight you at all because I know like you're doing a lot of that. And from a purist perspective, that is the way forward. And I still do it a bit, but there's no, it goes without saying that what's put the spotlight on the hobby in the last 2 years has been card grading and the sort of support for that value, and that, people aren't looking at it as a scam, even though there are some arguments that perhaps in cases it is. Yeah, so what I think will be interesting is, with them cutting this, does it turn people away, or do you think it actually drives price higher on the basis that it funnels the supply into the market of new graded cards, or is there enough out there to saturate it for now? But as we know, there's not enough sealed for everybody. So could the same thing happen with graded cards already?
I think there's enough graded cards out there that the market won't be affected on a price shift.
For
People
four
who are
months.
no, yeah, people who are grading the big ones that like a Trikachu or like the Gengar, the Charizards, they have they and within right have no problem paying the expedited bigger charges for that one card, even if they fit it in with a bunch more, right? So those are still going to be, I think, population wise, not really affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's that mid tier, and what could be interesting is keeping an eye on eights and nines because of just like I just feel like that's I don't know if I'm doing it justice in the way I'm seeing it in my brain and explaining it, but the people with the higher tier cards are going to express this shit all day long anyway to get this
Yeah,
card back. Why
very
it's
true.
good. The people that are doing more bulk, where they're more willing to wait the 6 months already, is not generally. It's your hobby collectors, it's your businesses submitting, as you said, bulk to increase their margins. Those don't contain Charizard, EX, Trikachus, Gengars, and I'm just picking modern cards, but I'm sure I could pick some vintage ones that are big boys that they would never put in a bulk submission like that
Mm-hmm.
either, unless bulked with a ton more. So, do you see what I'm trying to say there? Am I making
I
sense?
think I think it's a very interesting point actually, and it's one that I hadn't really picked up with on modern cards because, to be honest, I've usually been PSA 10 or bust with modern
Yeah,
cards, and I've not necessarily been right in that because you look at some more modern cards at the moment. For let's take the Trikachu for example. If you look for listings for that card, it's very hard to find good raw copies. Like the majority of copies at all that are on the market are already graded. Most of them are at a 10, and the reason for that is the set's not been out very long and the gem rate
yeah,
is 70%. Well, if the gem rate is 70%, that means almost every copy that's on the market is graded. 70% of those are going to be a 10 mathematically.
yeah,
And the prices on those, I mean, it still absolutely blows me away.
yeah.
Either we are in like the biggest beanie baby shaped bubble of all time. Like, who's buying a 3 month old Pikachu for 3 grand, £3,000? So what, $4K dollars? We're in like Moonbryon territory 3 months in.
That's what I got compared to this week, where I was just like, "Holy crap, that's a reality check right there!"
It
Like,
is massive.
and so yeah, we could probably go down a whole rabbit hole doing that.
Well,
Um,
maybe we should. I mean,
yeah,
Trikachu, there's
yeah.
2,000, I think there's about 2,700 tens of this card. It's not been out long, but that's such a small population by modern terms. All I keep seeing is terrible hit rates for ascended heroes. Like,
So
people
bad.
opening 100. people opening 100 packs and
Yep.
not being rewarded at all.
No
You know how
SIR.
much you know how much the pack price is. Like the
Hmm.
fact that I'm holding on to ETBs and not opening them. Like I might have a Pikachu behind me right now,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to open it and try and find out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So perhaps that price is correct. If it's as rare as it seems, and they didn't print that much, they're going to have all these other sets. They've got the 30th to worry about. We've got the Emeralda set coming out. They're going to have more lined up. Yes, I do think they will reprint it, but as we've seen with other sets so far, the first wave doesn't touch the sides. The reprint's not helping. Ascended's going to follow the same path, and that's why I bought so many ETBs. Mr. Scalper over here, say what you want. I literally don't care because I'll only put that into more Pokemon anyway. I'm not selling these on face
Yeah.
of money,
Oh, yeah.
guys. I'm
Yeah.
gonna trade them into a
Yeah.
Skyridge card at some point down the line,
Yeah.
like I have done previously.
Yeah.
So yeah, like what's gonna happen with the Pikachu? I genuinely think maybe it is a Grail, and there's gonna be hardly any of them. Like, will it ever hit 20k cards? I'm doubtful at this point.
Do you think do you think that there's a potential that rather than affect the market in any way, the only real big change is that PSA lose slightly more market share as people push towards other grading options?
Yeah, but this is the problem with the grading market at the moment is everybody's dropping the ball. Like, before when we were covering PSA scandals, and as were a lot of other people, and as soon as there is a scandal, everyone's happy to jump on it. But it's the same problem again. It's like, well, here's a perfect opportunity. What are you going to do with it? And nobody takes the reins. You know, like Tag
I
can't accept anymore. BGS are owned by collectors anyway, so they're part of PSA. So your only beneficial really is CGC. And to be fair to them, if you have a look, their graded numbers are going up. But how much of that is just through surplus, or is that natural
rip and
growth?
ship. Mystery bags and rip and
Mystery
shippers,
back.
grading, all those cards, like I mentioned at the start, that were never supposed to be graded because they were all mid-tier modern. But when you put it on a whatnot and you put it on a mystery bag, like they all become worth $50, being just like $5 cards graded to a $30 card. And now, anyway, you get my point. Um, Tag, the thing with Tag that like, so listen, hear me out on this. So Tag's
Okay.
based around AI based grading, right?
Yes.
AI by nature is only supposed to get smarter and better by volume. So Tag has got a decent amount of volume now. I would say that the AI should be pretty dialed in on grading a card.
Mm-hmm.
When Tag can turn around and put a vending machine next to the Pokemon machine, or a machine inside a card shop, or at card shows, collecticons, that a card can be submitted to, you can pay with your credit card there and come back later that day to a graded card. When that has been able to crack, someone is going to become an absolute godzillionaire.
It's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, they
You'd have
already have.
queues out the wazoo for it.
So you can do like a BGS walk-in at a show where they'll grade it
Can you?
on site, which is kind of a similar thing. Yeah, you do pay through the nose for it, and you can actually walk into PSA if you go to their headquarters. You can pay to walk in and have your card graded that day. So it's a similar thing. But I know what you're saying. If you can sort of make that remote, but also secure, and it's guaranteed, it's a very smart move. Yeah, if somebody can
Get
really
it
crack
out.
that,
Yeah.
and they
You could
will
have
one
the
day, right?
Yeah, you could have the complete front end feeding be all personless. Like it could all be done by machine. You feed the card in. I hate the idea that the machine would take the card out. I'd much rather it be carried around to a desk and a human is eventually the one that hands it to you for the security level. But what if it was like under an hour turnaround time? Like it would
Yeah,
be
I just
insane.
know. I just know that it would be my luck when I'm putting my Gyarados in the thing. It gets like stuck in the.
And yeah,
It gets
yeah.
churned in like a credit card. Just
Horrible
comes back
name.
as a one.
Just comes back in one.
See,
Yeah.
one day.
Uh Do you know, the time is what has always put me off grading. And I, to be fair, you mentioned earlier, I'm a little bit of like a purist, I guess, in the terms of buying raw, but I do try, as you know, look for centering means a lot to me. I hate an uncentered card. And then back condition, all the rest of it matters to me. I
Yeah.
have got I keep a list and a little portfolio on my Pokey thing that keeps a list of the cards that I want to grade that I believe are a 10. And when you do get the jump up that you can, it's hard not to justify giving it a go. But for me, the timelines already were putting me off. So this now just obviously puts me off even more. It actually pushes me more towards doing something like tag, even though I know they've got a down time as well. But like just with everything with PSA and the sheer volume, it doesn't it scares me away even further.
Yeah, so just to finish on this point, I would say that's really the sad part of this is that it's the general collector or the new person who's getting into the hobby who's suffering the most here. Although,
Completely agree.
vendors and sellers will complain the most because they've got the most on the line in terms of the
Yeah,
fact that if it's putting food on the table for them, they'll
yeah,
probably cry about it loudest. But actually, it's it's the people with the personal collection who have been waiting. You eventually get your value submission put in 4 months' time. You're not going to see that for well over a year, like could be
yep.
15 months, which is just ridiculous. Like it's way too long. And
All right.
then they come back and it's a mistake that they've made. It's just not
Yep.
good enough. And so PSA need to step it up. But to be honest, one thing I will say as well, they get slagged off, but um, at least they're doing the right thing. At least in terms of like as much as it's hurting them, they could just take the money and keep building the backlog. But actually, they've put a stop to it. Maybe this is
Yep.
too late, but
Sure.
they have done it. They've
Sure.
gone out like so we slate them a lot, but they have gone out of
Taking
their way
action.
to try and do something to take
Yep.
action. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. But hopefully you can get your cards submitted at some point. Maybe do a walk in at a show for one card with BGS or
Honestly,
something.
yeah.
Right?
I just never want to sit down for that long. Again, it's a time thing. But yeah, I agree. Good one to keep watching. What are we moving
Yeah.
on to? What are we next breaking up?
So, second sort of bit of news that I wanted to cover. It's not really one story, but I, I was having a look over the last couple of weeks, and like, obviously, my phone is part of an algorithm, and I get a lot of trading card content, but I also just get any Pokemon collaboration flags up. And I noticed over a period of about a week, I just kept seeing adverts for new things. And I told you about this, and I said I'm going to keep a record of everything that pops up, and then I'm going to go through it on our next pod, and we're going to look at like this 30th anniversary just gaining traction. So I'm just going to sort of rail a few of these off, and then we'll talk about what this potentially means for Pokemon, and obviously we'll throw up a
Go for it.
screenshot of any of these collaborations in case you're watching and you decide you really need to get involved.
Go for it.
So for things as stupid as the Pop Tarts at Target. Now, I was in the States last week, and these were the only item that weren't being scalped.
I know, crazy, right? So you saw the area that Target had like kind of laid out for the whole Pokemon collab.
Yeah.
People been stealing the cardboard cutouts and shit, man, and selling it on eBay. Like it's the Wild West in there.
I'd buy one. I'd buy. Can you get those cutouts?
On eBay, people are selling them. Yeah,
I could put them with my posters.
I know, big cardboard Gengar.
What other collabs we got? So a few of the ones that were before this actually that would piqued my notice to begin with. Obviously, Lego was a massive one for
Yeah,
2025, 2026. Like it was announced in 2025. Adidas and Puma both are releasing ranges this year with Pokemon,
so
massive
sick.
brands. There was the Super Bowl advert with every
Yep,
celebrity under the sun in it, and then other
yep.
ones that came through on my phone. So I had like the Grand Hyatt in Tokyo have got a restaurant menu specifically for the 30th anniversary. Rimawa, because I travel a lot for work, they're doing Pokemon suitcases. ANA have got two jets which they've liveried up in 30th anniversary, like
No
full
way.
commercial aircraft. Um, we were booking tickets for a show at the O2 next year in London, and there's a Pokemon Night Out event, which I haven't even looked into what that is, but they're doing a full-on O2 show in both Los Angeles and London.
So
So
cool.
that's one thing we should look at. And then things like, kind of more cultural stuff. You got like obviously everyone knows the Natural History Museum in London did the collab with the cards, and that was running. I think it might even still be going. The National Trust over here, which look after like royal gardens and protected areas. They're doing like a Pokemon tour and trail for
Here
families for kids
in
days out.
here in Chicago right now, we have the Pokemon fossil thing at the
That's another
museum.
one. Yeah. So that's on your doorstep, right?
Yeah, we're gonna go try and do that one. Yeah, we're gonna go try and do that one. It's just, it is insane the amount of things. Like, how many employees does Pokemon have? Like,
Oh,
that isn't it.
absolutely. It,
That's an
loads,
insane
thousands and
amount of
thousands of thousands. It's a
collaborations.
huge. I mean, they're absolutely giant corporation. um. So yeah, been seeing all these collaborations, and like, it just keeps making me think because I see people talking about or hear people talking about, oh, after the 30th anniversary, this is going to slow down. You know, it's just nostalgia. It's the only thing driving it. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is I actually don't believe that at all now.
Yeah.
I just think they've got their fingers in so many pies, right? You know, and they're
Yep.
building this brand beyond just the anime or just beyond trading cards themselves. Yeah, they're big parts and they're obviously always going to be a core to the hobby,
Yeah.
but these collaborations are smart, you know. They're not doing it on a whim.
No, they're not. And to be fair, some of them I think are absolutely dynamite. Like the Target one, for example. Some of the clobber I thought was really, really good. And I want an oversized EV t-shirt. I'm gonna get one. And then because I've obviously shown interest in that, now I'm getting a bunch of boutique clothing companies that have like Pokemon themed gear. And I think
Yeah,
some of it is absolutely killer, man. I have no problem repping a Gengar Max matching tracksuit. And so when the Adidas stuff drops, I'm probably going to be all in on something there because I won't buy any of this stuff off eBay. Fuck that. Like the guys that were nabbing those Pokemon Kanto jackets and selling them on eBay, like you're
yeah,
scum. I hope you
yeah.
all
I would
trip on a
agree, but
daisy.
isn't it weird how like they've positioned themselves as a brand now that's like not uncool with adults? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, obviously it's still a bit geeky, but I think they lean into that on purpose.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No problem.
and how do you think, like, what do you think this means for after 30th anniversary? Like, do you think they're building a future market? Like the funnel of new collectors. I mean, the last show I went to was my local card show. The lines for every single part of the day were absolutely round the block. You couldn't park your car. You're four deep to the table, like to the point where I can't even be bothered to go to some tables to even look because it's just like I'm having to
Yeah.
wrestle people to get there, young and old, male, female,
Yep.
you know, everybody. So I think people are overlooking it if they think 30th anniversary is going to be the
Agreed.
sort of the end of this. What do you think?
Not going to be the end by any means. If Pokemon, you don't become the biggest franchise in the world or the most recognizable brand in the world by not being strategic in some way. And Pokemon will be looking at longevity as much as they look at the turnover of a special holiday or like something like the Fossil Museum. So I would not be surprised that within the next year we hear and see something like a new pillar piece of media being developed, aka a new movie
Mm-hmm.
or a new TV series. Like they'll revamp a TV series, like they'll try and do like a, not Game of Thrones, but you know something of the equivalent in size, but for Pokemon.
Yeah,
I really think you'll see some more pillar type things done because Pokemon are strategic and they are definitely going to be thinking about longevity beyond keeping just like the natural hype of the 30th anniversary going. Obviously, the TCG side of things is always going to be there, right? You're always going to have a fan base, but they're going to want to be like, why are we originally fans of Pokemon? Well, one, because of the trading cards when we were kids and then the movies that we watched
mm.
alongside it, like even getting the promos at the movies. There's cycles to this, and I think Pokemon will definitely be exploring some sort of major cycle after this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what they're doing. They're investing in these different touch points. It's like it's exactly the same as what we do in business, like
Yeah,
marketing touch points of just
that's right.
being in your peripheral vision at all times. Like, you
Consumption.
know, and they're trying to hit every market at once. And
Yeah,
you know, some of these were like a couple of ones I didn't even mention were like makeup for younger
yeah,
girls. You know,
yeah,
like doing like
yeah,
Ditto collaborations with that. Like, it's got nothing to do with Pokemon whatsoever, but all they're doing is just getting into their mind of like,
No.
we're here and maybe you'll explore it further. And then when you do, obviously, as we know, it's like an absolute chasm of
Yep.
stuff like games, movies,
Yep.
whatever it is, and just hooking people in. So I don't
Another
think there's
game.
any lack of new collectors like
No.
on the horizon. Any that could be anybody.
Another game would be another example of a huge media push. And I know they've just released the recent Poketopia one or
Yeah,
whatever it
but
is, but that's a cozy game. And like to develop something a little bit more hardcore for the adults, a bit more for challenging, like a bit more real, like a open world Skyrim, but for Pokemon, like people would go insane.
yeah, we've all been wishing for it, and they've been lackluster with their
Yeah.
open world games in
Yeah.
that regard. And everyone knows it's like
That could be the
it's
next
such a
pillar.
yeah, exactly. So we'll see how that goes in future. But just wanted to touch on that really as a
Great
as a
point.
second news point, and
Yeah.
then I think maybe we should touch on an on this day from a little while ago next. What do you think?
Yeah, rub in how much money we could have made if we would have I don't know, known this in advance. Like that goes for anything, right? But like
Yeah,
this one hurts to hear sometimes.
it's a big one. So yeah, moving on. Every time we do one of our sort of standard setups, we look back in time. Maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 2 years to around this date exactly. A couple of years ago, we see what was going on the internet, take a snapshot, and then we discuss it. So this week's is the Thursday call outs from June. This is like the second week of June in 2024. And if you have a look on that Poke Investing post, there was a lot of engagement, a lot of comments. But at the time, what most people were talking about was how cheap Japanese 151 booster boxes had become at the time. I do remember it quite well. I did own quite a few. I don't own any now. But at this point, they'd basically started to kill everybody with reprints. So people were hoarding them. Nobody in Japan could get them. They were being resealed like mad. The shops were having to unseal them to sell them at retail. And so what Pokemon did is they just basically just printed like mad. They just put the printers on full blast and they put loads out. And as you can see here from this particular post, this guy he did have a voucher, but he was managing to buy 151 booster boxes. So they were $57, but he had a $17 special voucher. That meant he was picking boxes up at $40 a booster box. Each of these booster boxes comes with a Master Ball card, which doesn't come in any of the English variants, which was always going to leave these boxes as a good investable product, to be honest. And I don't even know if they've really got started, because I still feel like up until 6-9 months ago, you could pick these up everywhere.
Yeah.
And then this triggered me to like, well, okay, 151 Japanese booster boxes. I've not really had a look. We'll throw it up on Get Collector. Have you looked on Collector at what they're kind of going
Oh
for right now?
no, what are they going for?
$320 each
Oh my
sealed.
goodness me.
Over an 800% return if you bought
That's what I was
Japanese
just about to ask. What is that?
booster boxes.
800%. Like you could change your life with just
Yeah,
that knowledge, right? Like that is it. And but we're never going to have that situation again, though, are we?
yes, we are guaranteed.
Is that hope or is that like
No, I mean, you just look at all these products that keep coming out. Like, so what came out after that? Well, Destined Rivals, you could have made a killing on that. Prismatic, was that after that? No, it wasn't after that, was it
for
at all?
yeah
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Destined Rivals was after that, so that was an absolute killing. And then like Ascended Heroes, I think will probably be the next one. So
yeah
load up, and I reckon you'll see similar. But yeah, I mean, the Japanese probably wasn't to everybody's taste. Like, some people stay away from it, and obviously, as you know, if you collected 151 English, whether that's singles, graded, sealed, it's also seen massive increases. But the thing that stood out here is obviously this was on this day. Or what you got there? Is
little,
that the
little Charmander PSA 9.
nice, nice?
So
Um, yeah, obviously the thing that stood out was I was looking at on this day, so around this day, this is what everybody was talking about. and yeah, an absolutely massive gainer if you'd been in it. But it just goes to show, like, this is what people were talking about in 2024. We're only midway through 2026, so
Yeah,
that's 2 years of patience. So if you're looking at getting into this, just buy something, hold on
yeah.
to it for a while, and you will see the market is a absolute train.
Yeah, it is. And I know we've got a deep dive coming up soon where you can even like make you can even make you can make perfect order investable, let's say that.
Yeah, we're going to
But
look at that next
you're
time,
right.
aren't we?
You just have to, it's just about getting on the ladder.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would encourage, anybody to do that. It's been one of the best things I've done. I know you're really getting into it as well, and yeah,
That's right.
definitely do that.
Dom, let's wrap that news catch up, mate.
Yep.
We're coming up against our time constraint now.
Yep.
It's going to be so interesting seeing next time we need to probably look at some of the backlash, or if there is any backlash on PSA for this announcement, because you said this is going to have like very large implications to the collectors and to the vendors. So it's going to be interesting to watch who says what about this going forward this week.
Yeah, we'll have a look over the next couple of months, really, because, like you say,
Yeah.
this is a 4 month ban on submissions up front. Think how many cards they would have been receiving in that
Oh,
time. So it's going to be a huge build up, and I think they're still going to have a problem when they reopen because people are
yeah.
just going to be holding these back, waiting, ready to go. So they're
Yeah.
going to get a lot on their doorstep. But yeah, we'll keep tabs on that, and we've got lots to talk about next episode. So yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Before you
Oh
go, before you
yes.
go, real quick, I
Oh,
nearly forgot about it as well, but we have to
we do.
list our cards. So me and Dom are participating in a $100 flip 30-day challenge, and
Yep.
the time has come. We have sat on. We both purchased cards and have now both sat on them for 30 days.
Yep.
Um, we listing on Monday, right?
Quick reminder of what you bought.
I bought a Darkrai from Crown Zenith, and
And
you?
I bought the Nido King from Destined Rivals. Didn't spend $100, so yeah,
Right.
just going to be working on profit margin.
But the competition's around profit margins, right? Who could predict
Yep,
something that could increase the most in 30 days? And we've both had, if you're ever interested in our reasoning or why we picked what we did and where we did, you can go back to the other episodes where we break that down. But
exactly.
let's agree to list on Monday. And are we going for a 5-day, 7-day listing, or do we want to end it on Sunday night, Saturday night, Friday night?
I need to. I'm away for a little while, so let's
Okay,
do 7 days. Yeah,
7 days.
7 days.
So we'll list
Seven
on
days,
Monday,
12 days.
7 days, Sunday night.
Yep.
Look, if you're listening and you wanna help here, I'm gonna get creative with my listing. All right, like it's gonna be flamboyant to say the
Oh, you
least.
you can't be putting your underwear with it on eBay,
I,
mate.
I
That's not.
don't. There was no rules about what it takes to get the highest margin. Whether or not my dark ride comes with feet pictures is up to me. All right.
Fair enough.
So, but yeah, we'll post the listings on one of the episodes, and then we'll make sure we post it on our social medias as well. But
I
game on,
was
big man.
I was going to grade mine with PSA, but that's gone out the window. So
Not unless you can pay for the ultra. You'll be so much in the hole if you were to pay for the top tier just to get it back
I
in
know
time.
you're killing me.
Right,
All right.
more to
So yeah,
come.
we'll see how that goes.
Right, awesome catching up. We'll see you on the next episode.
See you next episode.